What's going on, everybody? This is Clint with the Die Hard MMA podcast. This podcast was filmed exclusively for odds.com. Be sure to click the link below. Check it out. We've got everything that you need over there. We've got you covered for every sport. Thank you so much for the support and good luck on all your action this week. All right, man, let's move along to the scheduled fights that we've going on here. I believe the first one that we've got lined up is a heavyweight tilt between Sergey Spivak and Jared Vanderaa. This one was scheduled a little while ago. It got, derailed. They're going to go ahead and get this thing going again here. Sergey is 11-2. Jared is 11-4. Sergey's got the UFC caliber experience already. He's proven he belongs in there. He knows what he's doing. Training with Francis Ngannou, it looks like at this point. Very tight boxing, nice jab. He's a decent grappler. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt. But the thing I noticed about Sergey is when he can't control the grappling, that's when he struggles. If he's the better grappler of the two guys fighting in the cage, that's when he really dominates because he can pick whether he wants to fight on the feet or on the floor. That affords him some flexibility and he does really well. But when he can't decide if he's going to be the man on the floor or not, that leaves him with just one option, and he tends to falter. He's still a young guy, still growing, still improving. So I think Sergey Spivak has a lot of upside. It's just a matter of whether or not Jared is on his level yet. This guy's a BJJ brown belt, so from a pure jiu-jitsu standpoint, he's going to be the better grappler. He came off of Dana White's Contender Series, and this is a decent jumping in spot in the UFC, in my opinion. He's kind of slow and plodding, though, and that's something that on the feet I think Sergey can take advantage of. He does have a sneaky head kick. He's very, very hittable, though. The big thing is he's a big power takedown kind of guy. He's got a strong body lock, a heavy top game, and if he gets you on the floor, he will absolutely ground and pound you. When they first set this fight up, I immediately thought Sergey Spivak. I wanted to jump on this guy. I'm not sold on Jared, but then I started looking into that grappling advantage that I talked about, and I almost feel like this is another dogger pass situation. Right now, we've got Sergey Spivak. Let me find him here. There's so many dang fights this week, James, that I'm having trouble looking at.
-240 is what I'm seeing. Yeah,
there you go. -240. Comeback is plus 200 on Jared Vanderaa.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I said, heavyweights, man, if you've got two very close, tight heavyweights, they're near each other's level. I always say to take the dog because heavyweights, you can end the fight with just one shot. That's all it takes. It adds a little bit of extra oomph if you're getting some plus on the money side. And I feel like if Jared can get this fight to the floor, he's going to be levels above Sergey. How do you feel about this one, James?
Yeah, I kind of had the same read. I remember when the fight was first booked, I believe it was for December before all the COVID stuff. I was really heavy on Spivak as well. And I just, you look at the UFC experience, you sort of feel that, hey, this guy's a little bit more established. But Jared's had kind of a weird career trajectory in a way. It was a couple fights into his career. He fought Richard Odoms for the LFA heavyweight title. So right then they were already trying to determine if this guy was sort of the real deal. He ended up getting submitted in that fight in the 5th round against a guy in Richard Odoms who was like in his 40s. So it was kind of a setback for him. He went over to, he fought a few more times for LFA. Didn't work out, went over to EFC, had a couple good fights, including a win over Ruan Potts, the UFC vet. And then he's come back and he's looked pretty good. I mean, the Contender Series fight was quick work, got that TKO finish over one of the best names in MMA, Harry Hunsucker. But in general, this is a guy that trains with a lot of really good fighters. He's at Team Quest, getting to train with Sam Alvey and Dominic Reyes and a lot of those big, heavy guys from that camp. So I like that from that perspective in terms of who he's getting to work with. Like you mentioned, Spivak getting to work with guys like Francis Ngannou. So it is a little bit interesting. Vanderaa does get hit a lot, though. I have noticed that in a couple of his fights. And even though he's got good stand-up power as well, I do wonder, getting that step up, fighting a guy in Spivak, how it's going to go. The way I look at this matchmaking, Clint, is the UFC is trying to determine who the better prospect is. You don't typically see guys who are in there, especially in the heavyweight division. I mean, how many 20-year-olds, 28-year-olds in their case, are they trying to push? Like, there's just barely any. So they're really trying to determine who sort of fits here. This could be a trap, like you were kind of saying. Like, I feel like Vanderaa, even though he's a big underdog here, I feel like he could go out there and potentially pull off the upset, especially at heavyweight where anything can happen. I'm gonna lead Sergey Spivak though, just because of that UFC experience. I think that what we've seen from him is a bit of an evolution. I know the Walt Harris fight is very fresh in my mind of him getting finished in that one, and I could see Vanderaa doing something similar there. But I just like the fact that Spivak is like I said, a little bit more battle tested in the octagon, and it's not his debut, right? That's one thing with Vanderaa. He's going to be making his promotional debut. So we'll see what happens there. Did happen to interview Jared before this fight. You guys can find that on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/LynchOnSports. It's under the UFC Vegas 19 playlist. I did 18 interviews for this card, Clint. So you guys got plenty of content to check out once you're done here. But yeah, I give a slight lean to Spivak in that sense, just because of the experience. I think I can't see Vanderaa going out there and submitting, Sergey Spivak, but I can see Spivak either submitting Vanderaa or winning a decision here. But I like Spivak a little bit more in this fight.
Okay. Yeah, I can totally understand the angle. Absolutely something that I understand. It just, for me, I know a lot of people are going to look to parlay Sergey. Please don't. This fight is going to play out razor close, in my opinion. I feel like the size difference, Jared being just such a bigger man, and the fact that he's capable of getting someone like Sergey who doesn't mind being on his back, playing the jiu-jitsu game to the floor, this is going to be a fight that the bigger man might just be able to bully the smaller one, regardless of that, UFC caliber experience. I feel like the line is wide. Whether or not I decide to break that rule of no debutantes and take the shot on Jared Vanderaa, that'll depend. Follow me on Twitter to find out. Maybe later this week I end up making that play, especially if money keeps on pouring in here on Sergey Spivak. If that line gets out of hand, y'all know me. That's when I snipe. I have no problem standing against the market and taking the side of the dog that everyone counts out. In fact, that's been kind of the number one thing that's been working for me so far in 2021 is finding those spots where the world has counted somebody out entirely and then hitting them because it's a 50-50 opportunity and we're getting plus 200 on one side.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough fight, but like I said, you can see what the UFC is doing here. They want to figure out who the better heavyweight is. And I saw someone in the chat, and I kind of agree with them, saying that, the UFC needs heavyweights. So that's also a reason I think Vanderaa got the Contender Series shot. He's getting this opportunity. He has enough fights to be in the UFC, but is he UFC caliber? That's another question. We're going to find that out on Saturday.
That is exactly the question. But again, James, I got to go back to the grappling. Marcin Tybura was able to just outsize, outmuscle Sergey Spivak. And I know there's an experience difference there. Don't get it twisted. I know there's a huge experience difference between Jared Vanderaa and Marcin Tybura, but Jared can follow that same exact plan. Jared, we're in the small cage. We're in the apex. This guy doesn't have to worry about being in space. If he gets in and he's able to take a couple shots from Spivak, who's not a power puncher, this guy is not going to put your lights out with a single bomb. Vanderaa, who's never shown to be chinny, never been knocked out, he might be able to just walk through a couple of jabs, pin him up against the fence, drag him to the floor, and that's what I'm talking about. That's my path here. So, yeah, yikes. I'm just not going to lay the wood. Sergey may get this one done, but yeah, this one should be fun. It's going to be heavyweight slobber knockers are always a good time, James.
Certainly are. Yeah, and second fight of the night should be good.
Absolutely.